Hi everyone, welcome to Right to the Top. I'm Adam. In today's video, I want to look at the IELTS Academic Test, Task 1, and we're going to look at diagrams and maps. Now, before I begin, I should tell you that this is probably the least common type of Task 1 you're going to see on the IELTS Academic. And the main reason that you won't see this too often is because this is actually the easiest of the task types. Line graph, bar graph, pie chart, tables, these are all much trickier for a lot of people. The diagrams and the maps tend to be a little bit easier. Why? It's because they're very straightforward. They're descriptive type of writing, right? So you're gonna basically ask to describe the infographic, and you're gonna have two potential types of description. One is going to be a process. Something happens, then something else happens, then something else happens, then something else happens. Or you're going to show a change, a before and after. So something has changed, like a map. This is going to be a map, or there's going to be a city plan. And you're going to describe how the situation was before and how it was after, or now, as the case may be. Now, the thing about other types of Task 1, you're going to need to pick and choose the most important features, the highs, the lows, the anomalies, the trends. In diagrams and maps, there's really not that much to talk about, so you're just going to include everything, okay? In the process, the main thing you need to focus on is the order, first, second, third, fourth. And in a change, you're going to just do a comparative, past, present. Talk about the past, talk about the present. Because there's nothing that will stand out, you're basically going to include everything. It's a little, I guess the hardest part of this type of infographic is getting enough words, getting above the 150 words. So I'm going to show you a sample task, but first, a quick word about process. The most important thing you need to do is identify the beginning point, okay? And that's where you're going to start your body paragraph 1. And you're going to work your way around it until you get all the way to the end. The key is to know where to cut the two body paragraphs. You don't want to have one long body paragraph. You still want to have two body paragraphs that are split up. So in essence, you need to find that point somewhere along the way, like between 3 and 4 usually, where you cut and start a new paragraph. So that's the key, is to know where to cut. And then you just go. First, this happens, then, and then back to the beginning. So that's the process. Process, very straightforward. Just say what's going on. What we're going to look at is a bit of a diagram / map of before and after. So here's the task, okay? Now, just so you know, somebody asked me about copyright issues. I create my own tasks for you guys. So just be clear that I made this up. You didn't see this is not from an actual test, but it works in the same way. Now, if you want to see this a little bit more slowly and more carefully, there's a link in the YouTube description box to my website where you can see this sample and take your time with it. But a city block in Toronto has recently been transformed to meet the changing needs of the local residents. This is your task. There's a city block, it's being changed, residents need different things. Summarize the information, 150 words, etc. So here's what you're going to see. You're going to see two pictures. Now, it's a bit small here, you might not be able to see it very clearly. I'll point out the things. Again, go look at it in full size on my website. So the before. So the green areas, these are townhouses with backyards. A townhouse is basically a private house that is attached to the next house. So each household shares a wall with its neighbors. So like the person who's on this area shares a wall with this person and shares a wall with this person. Townhouses are very common in Canada and the US, okay? The gray area with the P, that's parking lot for everybody there. The pinks are commercial spaces, restaurants, retail stores, etc. So the change after that, you had a condo tower, you had two condo towers. One has 20 stories, the other has 25 stories. The ground floor of the condominium towers are all commercial spaces and retail shops and restaurants on that side. There's a central condo entry, so if you want to get into either building, you go through here, then come in through here, go here, and then go up. And there's underground parking garages in both condos with access on the side streets, okay? And pay attention to the names of the streets so you can describe where everything is. And the parking lot has been transformed into a parkette. A parkette is like a small park. It's not a full-size park, it's just a very small park for local people or kids to play in, dogs, etc. Okay? So this is what you're looking at. Now, there are two ways to approach this in terms of your body paragraphs. You're still going to have your introduction, what is the task, what am I looking at? You're still going to have your overview statement, but then you have your two main paragraphs where most of the details come into play. So, there are two ways to do this, as I mentioned. You can have one paragraph explaining everything that was in the past, and you can have the second paragraph explaining everything that is in the present. This is easy and very straightforward, but if you want to get the higher score, you're going to have to do a bit of a mix. You're going to have to find another way to group the information, right? The reason you want to do that is because then you have more opportunities to have to use comparative language, to make direct comparisons between things. So what I did, the way I split this information up, in the first paragraph, the first main detail paragraph, I talked about the comparison between residential changes, and in the other one, I talked about the commercial changes and other changes. So all the townhouses and condos, and then I talked about the parking, the parkette, the commercial situations, okay? That's how I split it up. So here's the sample, here's the one that I wrote. You'll notice it's 180 words, so great, perfect length. You want to be over 150, you don't want to be over 200 words. So again, a lot of paraphrasing for the beginning. The two maps showcase the transformation of a Toronto city block. The reason for the new development is to satisfy the evolving requirements of the area's inhabitants. Residents, inhabitants, change, evolving, transformation, a lot of synonyms to change the wording. In general, you can say overall, in general, it doesn't matter as long as you have your overview statement. Notice it is just one sentence. In general, the main changes made to the area involve increasing the quantities of both residential and commercial units available to the public. That's the main thing. There are more units. That's the main change. So then, how I split it. In terms of housing, so now I'm talking only about housing, about residential, etc. The previous setup had the majority of the land space occupied by street-facing private townhouses along Stanley and Jefferson Avenues, so the two sides. So if you want to see Stanley and Jefferson on the other side, the townhouses are facing the streets. These homes had yards that backed onto a central parking lot. So these are the yards, and they're backing onto the parking lot. The current development, so now I switch. What is the new setup? The current development replaced these structures with two high-rise condominium towers running along Stanley and Jefferson with 25 and 20 stories respectively. Okay? So 25, 20, Jefferson, Stanley, etc. The condominiums can be accessed via a central entry on Main Street. So I mentioned this little point here. So far I have everything about the residential. Then I switch to the other focus. The other notable changes involve an increase in available commercial, retail, and restaurant units on the ground floors of each condo tower. So all the information that is in the diagram, I'm just putting into sentences. I'm not being too creative here, right? The parking lot's previous space has been shrunk and converted or changed into a parkette with a fence parallel to Western Avenue, the top street there. Lastly, parking for residents is now available in underground garages with 3 levels each accessible on Stanley and Jefferson Avenues. I added nothing, I took away, I left nothing out. I made everything very straightforward, and I compared like to like, like to like. I could have gone past and present. It's a little bit too easy. Try to have as much comparison as you possibly can. And that's all there is to diagrams and maps. Don't try too hard to be sophisticated, to be creative. Just say what you're seeing, put it into proper sentences, make sure that the two paragraphs are well organized, well grouped information. That's the key. Other than that, very straightforward, practice a few, concentrate on the line graphs, bar graphs, pie charts, etc. And that's it. If you have any questions about this, please ask on the YouTube comment section. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'll be giving you more samples and more points to do well on these tests. Again, you can see this particular sample on my website. There's a link below. Come back next time and I'll give you some more good examples, okay? See you then. Bye-bye.